Hi folks, it's Zach, and welcome back to my Star Wars tips and tricks section, and today we're talking about Chapter 1 of Knights of the Eternal Throne. I did this chapter with a light side focus, and I thought it'd be fun, instead of showing every single minute of the whole thing, you could actually see the cutscenes on Dolphy.net, and there was nothing in the story mode version of this that I felt was so difficult that it needed tons and tons of explaining. So what I thought I would do is I would go ahead and put together my chapter summary and also some tips and tricks for as you are playing this chapter for yourself. If you haven't played it yet, pay attention, this is for you. So first off, let's talk a little bit about the story summary. You're not going to see every answer to every question you've had after Knights of the Fallen Empire get addressed. However, this chapter does do a few things right. The biggest issues from the end of Knights of the Fallen Empire was the decision to let Arkin go or not. And so this chapter, and this is something I think it was a really great move, it jumps right in and starts addressing that particular plot point. Other things, though, are going to get put on the back burner. So if you're looking to know more about Scorpio, that will actually come later, but it will be addressed, and it gets addressed very thoroughly. For right now, though, this is all about Senya and Arkin. What happened to them? Where did they go? What, was the fallout from this, and who is Arkin going to be? So this chapter does a really good job of throwing you into the mix, and it doesn't give you a whole lot of backstory. In Knights of the Fallen Empire, the first few chapters had a ton of exposition, and they needed to. You had a lot of questions. What is the Eternal Throne? Who is Valkorion? Who is Arkin? Who is Valen? And why am I now being called the Outlander? Etc. All of those need to be answered. With Knights of the Eternal Throne, it's kind of taken as a given that you've probably played through Knights of the Fallen Empire, and therefore they take a little less time with the exposition. There's still a lot of cutscenes, but you're not dealing with a whole lot of the, by the way, my name is so-and-so, so-and-so, and don't forget that I'm this to this to you, and don't you remember how we did these things before? Not nearly as much of that, which is really kind of nice. And for this part of the story, like I said, most of what happened in Fallen Empire is just treated as a given. I would definitely, though, as my first major tip, before you jump into the action, check your character. I was kind of an idiot. I was so excited and I was so under the gun, I basically just started racing into fighting everything on my Jedi Sentinel, and I forgot to check his utilities, I forgot to check for the new abilities, I forgot to do all of that. So, use your trainer, check the patch notes, make sure that you have everything set. There have been changes to certain moves, therefore they might not still be on your hotbars if you're expecting them to be, and I actually spent my first few fights automatically being attacked while also trying to look through my menus and try to figure out, like, hey, wait, why isn't this working the way it used to? And I knew in the back of my brain that that was all going to happen, but I was still so excited to jump in the chapter, I didn't actually do anything until about, 5 minutes in, and then all of a sudden I'm whipping out my Dr. Ogre, the hollow statue, and now I'm going through my utilities. Also, you will have access to one of the new branches of utilities in your utility bars. For the purposes of my videos, I decided to have a little fun on my Sentinel, and I chose the one that let me double jump. Basically, you could force leap in, that generates focus, but then you can automatically jump again to another target. I had a blast with it. It's kind of a niche move, though. It generates just a little bit of focus. It was more fun, though, for me to just kind of jump around like a madman. It adds a little bit of mobility. I'm not sure it's actually really the best utility to use, but that's the one I picked. And if you're playing a Jedi Sentinel, props. It's kind of fun to mess with. Alright, so let's also talk about the downsides of this chapter. If you have been waiting for big news on companions, you're not gonna get it. This chapter here really sets the standard for what all the chapters following it are going to be. This is a very, very character-centric storyline on, Arkin, Valkorion, that whole family line. So Senya is involved in that. And as far as companions, you're only really going to see a lot of Theron and Lana. It's the Theron and Lana show again from back in Shadow of Revan, where they are just everywhere, and all your other companions are kind of put to the backside. You will see a bit of Vet, you will see a bit of Torian. They actually get messed with later in the chapters, so you will see a little bit of them, and you'll continue to see a little bit of them, but really, people like if you've been looking for Jason Wilson, if you've been looking for Mako, if you've been looking for Kira Carson, you're not going to see them in these chapters, guys. And that gets really clear really fast in this chapter, that this is really going to focus in on the Alliance-centric companions. If they were recruited in an Alliance mission, then you will probably see them. If they were not, you won't. So let's mentally be ready for that, guys, in the 9 chapters. Also, I think it's pretty fair to say that we may not see those characters come back again in a major way. That was an overall note that I got from the 9 chapters, or all the, however many chapters there were. I can't even remember at this point. Everything's such a blur. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the big shoutouts for this. So the big shoutouts are actually for the walker fights, which is really cool. It's a new element added into certain chapters. This is not the first and last time you will enter into a walker, by the way, guys. And one of the cool things is that even though they added in walkers, every walker you step into has different moves and different abilities and different strengths and weaknesses. It's actually almost like a little mini game, which is kind of fun. The Alliance walker in particular has, as its like star attraction ability, a grav mine that will suck in all the bad guys in a certain area into one spot for you to just completely blast them away. Guys, spam and abuse that as much as you possibly can. It's a great move. It's going to save you so much time as you're fighting this walker. The walkers move really slow. They're very obvious. There's no really good way to sneak around. And because you kind of have to step in one, you might as well enjoy it. The big negative of this particular walker is that there's no self-repair function. You have to find specific spots to go ahead and repair it. And in this particular chapter, I actually found this walker taking quite a bit of damage. It's not as hardy and sturdy as some of the walkers you will use later. It will get attacked quite a bit. It will take quite a bit of damage. And the other negative side of it is that it does take some specialized ammunition that you do need to reload in certain spots. So guys, if you're playing in this chapter and you're using the Alliance walker, make sure that as you need to, you find the Alliance resupplies points and the healing points so you can go ahead and get that walker fixed up and battle ready. Other than that, though, it is kind of a blast to use, and the boss fight that you do in that walker is really, really easy, guys, as long as you just avoid the frontal beam weapon of the boss. You can even use a grav mine on the boss, and that's still going to give enough AoE to swoop in all the extra mobs right to the boss so you can just nuke them all in the center. Anyway, the other shout out I wanted to give was to the Senya story resolution. I really liked it as a light side character. I haven't played it as a dark side character, so I can't really tell you what that looks like. But for me as a light side character, I enjoyed the fact that we have come to Voss. If you've been to Voss during the leveling process, then you know what they do there on Voss as far as healing, and it feels like a big throwback to the original storyline. Almost every character came to Voss looking for some kind of healing, or has been to Voss and is aware of Voss healing. And so it's really great to kind of see the Eternal Throne characters in the same place and having these previous plot elements that were introduced not really forgotten. I like that. I like throwbacks to original storylines and callbacks. So this was actually really rewarding for me to see how this played out, and it was really gratifying to see, Senya and Arkan and, how it all plays. I don't want to tell you everything and spoil it all, so guys, do play the chapter, but just know that I enjoyed it. Some people may not, but this is also the start of that storyline and its resolution, not the completion. So you're going to get a really big bump of what that part is in the story, but you're not going to see everything there is to it because that's the story of this entire expansion. So anyway, guys, that's it. My big tips and tricks are obviously to check everything on your character. I know that sounds like a duh moment, but if you're really excited like I was, maybe you just jumped right into the action. And 2, as you're working with the walkers, just go ahead and make sure that you do hit your resupply points, but read the tooltips on those hotbars, guys. Every walker you're going to be in is a little different, and each one has some specialized moves that you can use to your advantage. And in this particular case, grav mine, grav mine, grav mine. Anyway, guys, I hope you're having a great one. I hope you're enjoying the new expansion, and I will see you next time when we talk about Chapter 2.